Hello everyone and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today, we will be continuing our adventure exploring the basics of Python. So, without further ado, let's get started. This video is going to be focused on the string data type in Python, which, if you remember from last video, we talked about how strings are just arrays of characters, and in Python, we can put them in single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes to tell the Python interpreter that we're dealing with a string data type. In this video, we're going to expand on that knowledge and discussing some of the more advanced features of the string data type. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is string concatenation in Python, which is simply the combining of two or more strings. In Python, this can be conveniently done with the addition operator, but we need to pay attention because strings can only be concatenated to other strings and not non-string data values. If we concatenate or try to concatenate a string with some other data, we will get a type error and interrupt the program execution. To avoid that, we can use the str function to convert any non-string into a string so that they can be concatenated. If we look at this cell right here, we'll see that A is a string and so is B. So if we concatenate A with B, we'll see that it is successfully printed out because both are strings and they can be concatenated together. On the other hand, if we have A being a string and B is actually a float data type, we'll see that if we try to concatenate those two together, that will raise a type error because we can only concatenate string to string and not float. So what we do is we pass B into the str function, and then that will be converted into a string. As you can see right now, that is printed out successfully as we want it to be. A useful function in Python that deals with the length of strings and other array data types is the len function, which we only need to pass in the string, in this case, into the function and it will return the string's length. For instance, we have the string variable, a string, and we can pass in string into the len function. We can do that without storing it as a variable, but it's just a little bit more clear this way. And then you'll see that the length will be stored in length of string, and we're going to print it out here. But before we do that, we have to convert it into a string using the str function, because if we don't do that, it's going to raise the type error we just discussed. And you'll see that it prints out 8, which if you count this manually, you'll see that it's indeed 8. And just a cool thing is that if I put in an escape character like \n, we'll see that it returns 9 because one escape character in Python counts as one character. Now let's talk about how to convert between uppercase and lowercase with Python strings. And for that, we have the .upper and .lower methods. If we have a lowercase string like this, and we call the .upper method with it, it will convert the entire string into uppercase. And if we have an uppercase string and we call the .lower method, it will convert the entire string to lowercase, like this. As you can see now, this is uppercase and lowercase respectively. There are two other methods. The first to deal with converting between uppercase and lowercase. The first one being title, and the second one being .capitalize. And if I run this cell right here, you'll see that .title converts the first character of each word to uppercase and leaves the rest of the string lowercase. And the .capitalize method converts the first letter of the entire string to uppercase and leave the rest of the string to lowercase. Next up is indexing and slicing. Indexing is how we access the character of a string at a specific location known as the index of a string. In Python, string index is different than how we would count usually, because the first character of a string actually has the index of not 1 but instead 0. And the last character of the string can also be found using the index -1. To index a string, we can use the syntax like this with string, and then in square brackets, we can put in the index that we want to use, and then this will return the character at this specific index in the string. For example, if we look at this cell, we see that a string has the value of this is a string, and if we do a string with index 0, this should return T, the capital T, and -1 should return G. And if we print it out, we'll see that indeed those are the characters that are returned. Slicing is quite similar to indexing, only that indexing can only return one character of a string, while slicing can return a substring of multiple characters. Slicing also has a similar syntax as indexing, the only difference being that when you're slicing a string, two numbers are passed into the square brackets, separated by a colon. And let's check out this example right here. We have the string, another string with the value of this is another string. And if we look at this is another string with the square brackets. Inside, if we don't put a number at the start, it will be default to 0, but we can just omit that. And 4, what that means is it will count 0, 1, 2, 3. It won't count 4 because it will stop actually before 4. And then if we look at the second line, right here is 16, and it will count probably to, this will be the 16th character by index, and then it will go all the way to the end of the string and print out everything after. If we do specify the two endpoints of the slicing, we'll see that 5th is going to be this character, and 7th is going to be this character. However, this is not going to be part of this substring because it will stop before the 7th index. Printing it out, you will see that it is indeed this, which there's no space after, and there's string, which is just the entire end of the string right here, and there's also is right here without a space afterward either. So that's indexing and slicing in Python. Another string method in Python that is quite useful is the .replace method. And what it does is it replaces substrings within a string with another substring. For example, we have the string, here's a string, and we can pass in two parameters to the replace method. The first one being the substring that we want to replace, and the second one being the substring we want to replace the first with. So if we print out this new string right here, we'll see that it was here, and now it's there. And just something to note is that if I pass in, for example, E with, let's say, A, and then all of the E's within the string will be replaced by A's. So not just the first with some other string methods in Python. As a programmer, you'll frequently work with data, whether it's data from user input, from a file on your computer, or maybe from some other database source. And those data may not always be clean, and in a string, there might be characters which we don't want, or maybe they just aren't useful to our program. As an example, if you look at this phone number string right here, there are 2 spaces here and another 4 spaces here. If we are to extract the area code, which is supposed to be 123, from this phone number using slicing, it would actually print out space 1, which is obviously incorrect, so that's when we want to use the .strip method. By default, the .strip method removes the white space at the beginning or the end of a string. For example, we have the cleans number, which stores the value of phone number, defined up here when we call the .strip method on it. And if we print out the cleans number, we'll see that the white space at the start and the end are removed. And if we use slicing now, we will see that it prints out 123 correctly. The .strip method can also be customized to remove a specific substring from the beginning or the end of a string. To do that, simply pass in the substring into the method. Like we have the string with the string as I am so happy with a lot of exclamation marks in it. And if we just print it out, we'll see that it's like this. But if we call the .strip method with the exclamation mark passed in, also with the capitalize method and concatenating a period at the end, it'll print out I am so happy, which looks, maybe it's not as expressive, but it's easier to deal with when coding. In times when we want to check if a substring is in a string, we can write the statement substring in string, and that will be stored as a Boolean value. For example, we have the string with the value I am a Python programmer, and we have the substring with Python. And Python in string has the value of the Boolean substring being in string. And if I print out Python in string, we'll see that it's true because indeed this substring is part of the string, as you can see right here. On the other hand, if I change this to maybe Java and then print it out, it will actually return false because Java is not part of this string. Another thing you can do is write a not in front of here, and you'll see that it's just basically reversed. Just to summarize what we talked about today, we went over some of the more advanced methods and functions when dealing with Python strings, including string concatenation, which is the combining of strings, where we talked about how to convert between non-string data types to string data types using the str function. We also talked about the len function, which returns the length of a Python string. After that, we went over how to convert between uppercase and lowercase with the .upper, .lower, .title, and .capitalize methods using Python. And then we talked about indexing and slicing, as well as the .replace and .strip method. Lastly, we talked about how to use the in keyword to check if a substring is in or not in a string. And that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments so I can do my best to answer them. With that said, thank you for watching and I'll see you in my next video.